They say every building in Milan has a missing floor. Some for superstition, some for secrets. My name is Laura Conti, and I should have listened when they told me apartment 404 didn't exist. I moved in last November, 34, recently divorced, and desperate for a fresh start. All I wanted was somewhere quiet, cheap, and knew a place where the walls didn't hold the echoes of old arguments. The real estate agent, a woman in a hurry, showed me the place. It was a modern building with clean elevators and hallways that smelled faintly of lemon polish. The lease was clear, apartment 404, 4th floor. But when we got to the elevator, the buttons jumped from 3, straight to 5. There was number 4. I laughed, but the agent didn't crack a smile. Italian superstition, she said, a little too quickly. The number 4 sounds like the word for death in some languages. Bad luck. She pressed the keys into my palm. The stairs will take you there. The stairwell was dim, cramped. And there it was, between the 3rd and 5th floors, a small, unmarked metal door. No number, no mail slot, just a dark little peephole. When I turned the key, the lock clicked open as if it had been waiting for me. The apartment itself was small, but clean. 1 bedroom, a narrow balcony overlooking a quiet courtyard. Everything smelled like fresh paint, but underneath it, there was something else. Something older. Dust, maybe, or memory. I told myself it was perfect. It was quiet, a little too quiet. That first night, I woke up with a jolt. My clock read 3:04 a.m. Someone was walking in the hallway. The footsteps were soft, slow, deliberate. Then came the knocking. 3 distinct knocks. Not on my door, but somewhere close. Then, silence. I tried to convince myself it was just another tenant, settling in for the night. I was wrong. The next morning, I decided to test the elevator. I pressed the button for 5. The car started to go up, paused, and then the lights flickered violently. The doors slid open. But this wasn't the 5th floor. I was on 4. The hallway was identical to the others, but wrong. It was darker, suffocating. There were no windows, and an unnatural silence hung in the air. I stepped out cautiously. Every door on the corridor was painted a deep, matte black, except for one. Mine panicked. I scrambled back into the elevator, just as the doors began to close. When they opened again, I was on the 5th floor. Bright, normal, alive. Later that day, I found the building manager. I have a question about the 4th floor, I started. He stared at me, his friendly expression faltering. There is no 4th floor, he said flatly. Not anymore, I pressed. He hesitated, looking over his shoulder. It was sealed off years ago. Water damage, structural problems. Nobody lives there. He forced a smile, but his eyes were filled with something cold. If you hear anything strange, Signora Conti, don't answer. That night, sleep was impossible, and sure enough, at exactly 3:04 a.m., the knocking came again. 3 sharp raps. This time, right at my door. I froze, my heart pounding against my ribs. Then, a voice, a whisper, coming right through the wood. You shouldn't be here. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob and pulled it open. The hallway was empty. But taped to the wall directly across from my door was a single photograph. It was an old, black and white image of this exact hallway, taken decades ago. In the photo, a woman stood in front of my door. She looked exactly like me. The next morning, I called the real estate agent. No answer. I went to her office. The entire agency was gone. The space was empty, with a for lease sign in the window. A quick search online revealed no record of her name, no license, nothing. It was like she never existed. When I got back to my apartment, I noticed something else. The brass numbers on my door 404 were upside down. I reached out and turned them right side up. That night, the knocking stopped. But it was replaced by something even more unsettling. Faint music began to drift from behind the walls, an old mournful tango, playing on a loop. 3 days later, the power went out. The red emergency lights flickered on, casting long, bleeding shadows down the hall. I stepped out to check the fuse box, and that's when I saw it. A door I had never seen before. Directly across from mine, it had the same number. 404. As I watched, frozen in place, the handle began to turn. The door creaked open, and a woman stood in the doorway. She was my age, my height. She had my face. Her expression was strangely calm, almost kind. "You finally found me," she said, her voice a soft echo of my own. I couldn't speak. "They told me someone would come," she continued, her eyes glistening. "Every few years, someone always does." She stepped aside, revealing the apartment behind her. It was my apartment, but decayed. Dust covered everything like a shroud, the furniture was rotted, and the wallpaper was peeling away in damp strips. The air was thick with the smell of mold and old smoke. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "This," she said, "is what happens when you forget to leave." I stepped closer, drawn in by a horrifying sense of familiarity. The same photos on the wall, the same books on the shelf, the same vase on the table, all of them were withered and decayed. I looked back at her. She was crying now, silent tears leaving grey streaks down her face, like soot. "You have to close the door," she urged, her voice trembling, "before it opens for you." "I don't understand," I stammered. She gave a faint, heartbreaking smile. Neither did I, and then, the lights flickered back on and she was gone. The other apartment, the other 404, was just a blank wall again. I packed my bags that night, my hands shaking so badly, I could barely zip my suitcase. I tried to call a taxi, but the line was filled with static. A distorted voice on the other end crackled, "Apartment 404. We don't service that address." I ran for the elevator, slamming the button for the ground floor. The car descended, and then stopped abruptly, at 4. The doors slid open to that same black hallway. And there, at the far end, she was, me, waiting. The other me smiled, a cold, knowing expression on her face. "You didn't close it." The elevator doors slammed shut, plunging me into darkness. When I woke up, it was morning. My phone said it was Monday, but the calendar on my wall said it was Sunday. Again, the same half-eaten breakfast was on the counter. The same newspaper sat on the table. The headline read, *, local woman missing, last seen at Via dei Fiori Apartments. * below it was my photo. I tried to leave. I ran to the front door and threw it open, but the hallway just looped back on itself. Every direction left, right, up the stairs, down the stairs, led me back to the same door, 404, and every time, she was there, waiting for me. Sometimes she looks older, sometimes younger. Sometimes she just whispers, "You shouldn't have looked for it." I've stopped trying to leave now. I just sit by this window that doesn't really exist, watching a light that never changes. Sometimes I hear the music. Sometimes I hear the knocking. It's always at 3:04. They say every building in Milan has a missing floor. Some for superstition, some for secrets. Mine has both. And I know that one day soon, someone else will climb those stairs and find a small metal door with no number. The key will turn easily, because I'll be on the other side, waiting. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoy tales of mystery and the unexplained, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. Stay safe out there, and maybe be careful which doors you open.